Hi everyone, good to see all of you, and thank you AMSE for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. I am presenting you today my path at Banque de France. Actually, real quick, I do have a question. Just a show of hands, how many of you are French or have EU nationality? Yeah, and then conversely, all of you who are foreigners? Good, all right. This is important for Banque de France specifically. Also, I just want to declare that I'm a cheater because I played both sides. I am an American. I grew up in the United States, but I was born in France. I do a lot of back and forth, so I've seen the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean a lot of times. America's not very good at geography. I did my undergrad at the University of Washington in economics, and they have an exchange program. I'm not sure if some of you heard. There are AMSE students that get to come to the University of Washington every year, and I actually met some of them before I came to Marseille. I thought this was an interesting opportunity to reconnect to my roots that I had never actually really experienced before, and also improve my French. So this is my advantage here today, but if you come speak to me in French, please be patient with me. Sometimes I make mistakes. And then I completed here the master's at Aix-Marseille University. My focus was in the economic policy analysis. And then I went onward, I went back to the US, I did 2 internships there. One of them hosted at the international, it says IMF, which should actually be IFC, that's my bad. I had a lot of work this week. And then the Boulder Institute of Microfinance. And then I went on to work at the Development Finance Corporation. That is the United States Development Bank. If any of you know AFD or Proparco, that is the equivalent there. Came back to France, did a short-term contract with an Italian rating agency. They work for financial ratings of foreign enterprises operating in developing countries that want to appear a little more official. And then finally, I completed a concours, the Concours d'Assistant. It's a national exam at Banque de France, which is where I work today. Now, a little background, I should put a slide here, please forgive me. About Banque de France, for those of you who don't know, Banque de France is the central bank of France, and it was founded in the year 1800. It is very old. However, it was first a private bank, catering to the wealthy French families. And only in 1945, after World War II, did Charles de Gaulle actually nationalize the French central bank into close to what it is today. It had many restrictions, though. There were many policies it sought to follow from the government, and it only maintained its independence in 1993. Shortly afterwards, the European Central Bank was established with the Eurozone, and now France implements the monetary policy of the European Central Bank, along with all the other central banks of the Eurozone. Now, to give a little bit of scope, the bank is a massive organization. It has almost, in fact, I think more than 100 100 branches, of which there are about 10,000 employees. And so if you're not interested in what I work in, know that the bank works in a lot of different fields. Most primarily, the bank's global purpose is to provide financial stability in France. And it is not a bank for you. Please don't come to the bank and try to deposit your money. It is more a bank for the other governing bodies of the French government, and also caters to some enterprises in France. So, instead of showing you the whole table, I'll show you where I work specifically. I work in the direction of statistics and studies at the international. Within that, there is a direction for the balance of payments, and within that, I work in the service of direct declarants or reporting enterprises. Now, the balance of payments, if you've all been keeping up with your accounting, your monetary policies, it's a statistical statement of all the transactions between a particular country and all other nations, so residents and non-residents. Basically, we track all of the transactions that large French or international, multinational companies do between France and foreign countries, something that the douane does not actually record in all detail. The douane just records the total number, and we specify by countries with more necessary information. And this allows us to keep a finger on the pulse of the French economy. We're able to actually see what are the deviations in in the international transactions, why, and also what are the growing French companies. So just a quick overview of the balance of payments. There are three accounts: the current account for the trades in goods and services, the capital account, which are non-financial assets. This is a very tiny portion of the balance of payments, and the financial account. Those are accounts receivable, accounts payable. And if there's anything you remember about the balance of payments, if it ever comes up on an exam, it's this formula. The financial account equals the current accounts plus the capital accounts. That is why, so actually, if I subtract the financial account for both sides, if I take the current account and the capital account out of the financial account, what should I get? What number should I get? I know you're all math experts. Should be 0. If I subtract the current account, the capital account from the financial account, it should be 0. Because one equals both others. Every credit in the current account or capital account has a corresponding debit in the financial accounts. Now it should be 0, it is not 0 because of a number of different issues: currency exchange rates, different losses during the transaction intermediaries, and all of that work from many different people ends up into this tiny table where we see all three accounts, and then at the bottom, the errors and omissions, which very thankfully we're just going to remove that, make sure it's all pretty and it equals 0. So all of this data that I manipulate, that I have to collect and form into this table, come from France's largest enterprises, or companies that operate within France's borders. For them, it's a lot of work. They have to dedicate personnel to this task. And it's a lot of information that they don't actually use in their enterprise. So why do they do it? Well, they have to. It's a regulation, it's an obligation that all companies that operate and have international transactions of more than 30 million euros have to report to Banque de France. So we will go and we will pester them until they do. And thankfully that means it does not operate for all companies in France, or else that would be way too much work. And a little bit of an overview of my job activities as it would be listed on my CV. Essentially, I maintain relations with a portfolio of companies, about 50. With each of them, there is a representative dedicated to this task. And I monitor their data, I make sure that it's clean, it's accurate, it's not missing any details. Sometimes companies forget or they omit certain details, or they think they will be punished for certain amounts. That's not what we do. We're not here to tax them, we're just here to record and then do analysis on the data that they send us. All of these operations are done on an in-house software, OneGate and NAB, and then we draft detailed information sheets on the actual companies in our portfolio so that other people, non-economists, can just quickly look and see the details of our work. What have been the fluctuations in that company's transactions, and how is it doing, and who owns it? And this is particularly important in certain political situations. Earlier this year, we were asked to audit more closely all of the enterprises that have a majority Russian shareholder, try to make sure that we know exactly how many transactions we have with them. All of this information is visualized monthly on SAS and Power BI, and then we correspond with a variety of different organizations, such as the AMSE or Eurostat, regarding the evolutions into this data. Now, if this doesn't sound at all like what you want to do, don't worry. There's a lot of different things that the bank does, and also changing jobs within the bank is not just a possibility, but it is a requirement. Every 3 to 5 years, in most positions, you are required to move from one service to another. There are many ways to enter the bank. I am going to break them down here. One of them is the internships. There are over 300 listed at any given moment, and the max duration is 6 months. And there are contracts, CDD, which are fixed term, and CDI, which are not fixed term, indefinite. Now, this is why I ask for a show of hands. Nationality is important for certain positions of the bank. You have to be a member of the Eurozone, I believe a member of France specifically, in order to try to get a city contract, or the concours, the national exam. That is what I did. There are 3 different ones. Each one's offered once a year, though I believe the assistant one is now offered 3 times a year. And this is how they roll out. This is how you get accepted into these positions. An internship is very simple. You go online, you find an internship you like, you send in your CV, and if they like you, they'll give you a call. For contracts, a little bit similar. You're going to send it in, then you're going to have a sit-down interview, and then you're going to have a meeting with RH. Finally, for the concours, all three of them are a little bit different. I took the CAS one, that's the most applicable for all of you once you complete your master's, is that you will have to go on site to a massive building where there will be 400 other people that are competing. About 270 of them will be economists. This is from my previous experience, but of course, depending on the year or the time of year, these numbers can change. Then about, I would say, 70 of them move on to, the test aptitude is something you do at home before. Then you have to go in person, étude de dossier, QCM. These are, you essentially have an economic topic, usually a current topic. So for me, it was the debt that we accrued from COVID, and how are we going to deal with it in the coming years? And then another one would be the rising inflation rate. All of these, it's important to keep up with modern topics when you go to do these exams. But this portion where you first have to do the étude de dossier and then you do QCM in English is where your studies matter the most. This is what gives you an advantage against everyone who didn't study economics. The information that you study, and most importantly, your vision of the world as economists and your practice in these stressful exam situations really gives you an edge. Because it's an unnerving thing to sit down on one day on a Saturday morning and do what is essentially a 6-hour exam to write on a topic you might not know very much about. But you have a bunch of pages, you just discern the information and try to create one cohesive argument with it. And then finally, if you pass that, about 70 from the 270 will then do an in-person interview, and about 30 to 40 of those will get accepted. Now, that sounds like it's quite difficult, but you lose nothing by trying. And here are some tips for you to overcome the application process for your internship or for your future jobs. First and foremost, I would say you need to have a real introspective conversation about what your strengths are. Of course, you're all doing a master's in economics. This is very useful on your application, very useful for your job. But beyond that, what makes you different from the person sitting next to you? What skills can you offer to a job? And then you can tailor your job search, not just by what you're interested in, but also what you have in advantages. And even if you have a skill that may not be applicable to the position you're applying it on paper, never forget that you have it, and you can always use that in an interview to make yourself stand out, right? You try to, for me, my skill was always English, and so I would express that I have my capabilities in English, even in positions that may not necessarily ask for it, because then whoever's interviewing you can try to think, maybe not for this position, but for another one, or, oh, maybe they're actually going to fill a niche that all the other applicants that I have don't actually know how to fill. Second is the numbers game. Guys, I hate to break it to you, applications are rough. It is hard to apply, and oftentimes, I know personally, I would fixate on maybe 1 or 2 job postings, and then I would really want that one for myself. And I would tailor my personal essay, and I would change my resume, and that's all great, right? That does give you an edge, but you might just not get accepted. There's a lot of other applicants you don't always know, and sometimes positions are offered online, but they actually already have a candidate in mind that's going to fill it, right? You can't take these things personally, and I'll get on with that third point. But what that means is you just have to keep applying. It's just the honest truth. You just have to keep going at it, trying to really establish maybe even a couple motivational letters tailored to different sectors of what you're interested in. Don't be afraid to branch out. I don't know if anyone's told you this, but you know all those job postings that say they're entry-level position, but then require 5 years of experience working in a manufacturing plant in Ireland? You can still apply to those, by the way. Even if you don't meet all the criteria, you can apply, because ultimately it doesn't matter if you perfectly fit the job position, you just have to stand out against everyone else that's applying, right? So don't be afraid to take risks, apply to things you're interested in, stay open to different possibilities. A previous presenter said, have a number of different job sites that you regularly look at if it's a place you're interested in working in, and even if it's not necessarily the first position you want, even at Banque de France, many other enterprises, you can start one place, you can move in a different direction. Lastly is imposter syndrome. For those who don't know what imposter syndrome is when you feel inadequate to all the people around you. I don't know about you, but I've had the experience of the masters. I often think, what am I doing here? Everyone is so smart. I feel like I don't know anything, and it starts getting in your head, starts corroding your confidence, makes it a lot harder to apply. You have to fight through that. Know that you are here for a reason. Know that you have cultivated skills during your master's, and know that those skills are useful in your job applications. If you go into the job, even if you don't know anything about it, I didn't know anything about balance of payments before I got into my current position, but I was flexible, I was enthusiastic. I came in with the right foot forward, and I learned on the job. Jobs will train you to do the job they really want you to do. You're not going to learn exactly how to do this during the master's, but like I said, you're going to develop an economist outlook, right? That's the most important skill you have, is your way to be able to discern problems and find solutions as an economist. That's my presentation. If you have specific questions on how to work at Banque de France, what it's like, I didn't go in very much into the details of the positives of my job, but Banque de France is a very safe and comfortable place to work at. I have a lot of benefits. It's one of the few places, if you're afraid of finding a job during a recession is actually pretty good. There's more work to do, which is a plus. I have a lot of vacation days, so that's important too. And also if you have more specific questions for the concours, there are other AMSE students that have already reached out to me and asked, can you tell me more about what might be on the exam and all of that? So feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn. No one else should probably have my full name, so it shouldn't be hard to find. Thank you.